You ever look at the world and just think, this is all wrong? Where's the justice? Well, today we're going to dive into 2 Esdras, an ancient book that was born from that exact feeling. It's this raw, powerful response to a world-shattering catastrophe that asks questions we are definitely still asking today. So in the year 70 AD, a world ended. And I mean that literally. For the Jewish people, this wasn't just another date on the calendar. It was the end of everything. When the Roman legions sacked Jerusalem and burned their sacred temple to the ground, that was way more than just a military loss. It was a spiritual apocalypse. Their whole world, the very center of their faith and God's presence, had just gone up in smoke.
Okay, so how on earth did things get so bad? Well, this crisis didn't just happen overnight. Not at all. It was the brutal climax of a really long, really painful history.
Yeah, you can really see how this whole thing was a pressure cooker just waiting to explode. For almost a century, since 63 BC, Judea was basically under the thumb of Rome, and that rule was often corrupt, oppressive, and totally insensitive. So by 66 AD, all that simmering resentment finally boiled over into a full-blown revolt. But let's be real. Judea, for all its passion, was just no match for the Roman war machine. The result? Total disaster. And it all culminated in the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And this right here is the absolute heart of the problem. The people were left with this devastating question. You see, they believed in a just God, a God who had a special covenant with them. So how could he possibly let this happen? And not just let it happen, but let it happen at the hands of Rome, a nation they saw as godless, wicked, and way more sinful than they were. The math just wasn't mathing, you know? All of this pain, all this confusion, it needed a voice, and that right there is where the book of 2 Esdras comes in. It gives a voice to an entire people's anguish, all through one central figure.
Now, you've got to understand, this book isn't some dry history lesson. No way. It's basically a theological argument. It's one guy, Ezra, speaking for his entire broken community, and he is just grabbing God by the lapels and demanding an answer. It's so raw, so personal, so incredibly human.
And this is pretty much the core of what he's saying. He's basically going, look, I get it. We messed up. We weren't perfect. But you're going to use them to punish us, a nation that doesn't give you a second thought? Come on. How is that justice? And here's a direct quote that just nails it. Now, one quick thing. When the text says Babylon, that's code. Everyone reading this back then knew it was a stand-in for Rome. It's a clever way of connecting this new disaster with the old one. So he's asking point blank, are the Romans really any better than us? Is that why they're in charge? So what kind of answer could possibly be enough for a question that deep, right? The book doesn't just give some easy, feel-good response. Instead, the answer comes through this very specific kind of writing, a literary form that's all about revealing a hidden, higher truth. And here's the key. When we hear the word apocalypse, we all think fire, brimstone, the end of the world, right? But that's not what it originally meant. The Greek word apocalypsis, it means an unveiling. The whole point is to pull back the curtain on our messy, confusing world and let us see the bigger picture, to see reality from God's perspective. It's about putting all this suffering into its proper place.
And a huge way it does this is by laying out this idea of 2 ages. The book basically says, look, this age, the world we're living in right now, it's broken. It's full of sadness and sickness, and yeah, it really seems like evil is winning. But, and this is a huge but, it's temporary. True justice, the real payoff, that belongs to the age to come. God's promises will be fulfilled, just not here, not yet. Justice is coming, but it's deferred.
Okay, so this all builds up to the absolute climax of the book. That burning question Ezra has. Why is Rome in charge? It's finally going to get an answer. And it's not some philosophical lecture. It's a wild, stunning, symbolic vision. So Ezra has this vision. He sees this massive, monstrous eagle rising up out of the sea. And trust me, for anyone in the first century, there was zero doubt about what that eagle was meant to be. Yup, the eagle is Rome. I mean, the eagle was literally the symbol on every single Roman legion's banner. And the vision gets super specific too. The 12 wings, the 3 heads, they're all about the different Roman emperors. So this isn't some vague, oh, evil is bad thing. No, this is a direct political takedown of the empire that just crushed their world. But just when this eagle seems unstoppable, a new player enters the scene,
a roaring lion appears, and it's there to challenge the eagle head-on.
And again, for the people reading this, the lion was just as clear a symbol as the eagle. The lion, that's the Messiah. That's God's chosen agent of justice. The lion is here to finally hold Rome accountable. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for.
And then the lion speaks, and whoa, it just lays down this powerful judgment, speaking directly to the eagle, to Rome. And this is it. This is the answer to Ezra's big question. It's basically God saying, I've seen what you've done, I've heard the cries, your time is up. Judgment is coming.
Okay, so you've just been given this massive, cosmic promise that justice will win in the end. Great. But what are you supposed to do right now, as a broken person living in the ruins? How does that big vision help you get through the day?
Well, this is the big turning point for Ezra. As soon as he sees that bigger picture, his despair it transforms into a new sense of purpose. The guy who was shaking his fist at the sky, demanding answers, now becomes a leader. He's ready to guide his people. And this brings us to the book's final practical advice. Because this vision of future justice, it's not a free pass to just sit back and do nothing. Nope, it's a call to action. The message is, in a world that feels completely out of your control, there's one thing you can control: yourself. The way forward is to look inward, acknowledge your own community's failures, and then recommit, like 100%, to living by God's law, the Torah. That is where you'll find life and meaning and hope, even when it feels like the whole world is on fire.
And so, in the end, 2 Esdras leaves us with a question that's just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. When the world feels unjust, when everything seems broken, how do we find our way forward? The book's answer is pretty profound. It suggests that real hope isn't about choosing between waiting for some big cosmic intervention or just focusing on yourself. True hope is found when that vision of ultimate justice actually fuels you, empowers you to take the small, everyday steps that lead back to a meaningful life, even when you're surrounded by ruins.